Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Unit 2 PowerPoint presentation about how a bill becomes a law. If you have not read the section in your book about the legislative process already, I would encourage you to stop the video here, read that section of your textbook, and then come back just so you have some context. So I'd like to start with this PowerPoint with an image. So I'm going to move on to the next slide and just pause the video there so you can take a minute to see what feelings inside of you this image brings up. So here it is. Yeah, what is this an image of? Do you guys know what this is? This is an image of the flag of the Confederacy, the flag that represented the South during the Civil War. So there it is. And in our discussion about the legislative process, we think about the legislative process as all starting with an idea. Remember, the legislative branch is the only branch of the government that has the power to make and draft laws, and that includes changing those laws, deleting and updating. In class, we can even talk about something simple like the law that bans, holding your phone next to your ear while you're driving a car. That's an idea that then turned into legislation. But what about this? What about the image of the Confederate flag? What does this have to do with legislation? Well, this is an image of the Mississippi state flag currently. And you can see that on the Mississippi state flag is an image of the Confederate flag. So this was a big issue and has been an issue for decades. This is nothing new, but this reared its head again this summer, just this past summer, a few weeks ago, in fact, right after the killing of George Floyd. There was renewed discussion about why the Mississippi state flag has to have this image on it. Now, you might be wondering what this has to do with our unit on legislation. And that is because every state, and that is all 50 states, have a state law that describes what the flag should look like. We have that here in Massachusetts, and we're going to get to that at the end of this PowerPoint. But I want you to think about this from a legislative perspective. In order for a state to decide what its flag will look like, there is a state law that was drafted by and passed by the state legislators as to what that flag should look like. So that is what happened in Mississippi. So this summer, in summer of 2020, after many, many weeks of protests and a very growing, strong Black Lives Matter movement around the country, there was renewed effort in Mississippi to change the state flag. But this wasn't up to all the individual people by themselves. It was up to the state legislature, who is made up of individuals elected by the citizens of Mississippi. So we said that all legislation begins with an idea. So there was an idea to amend or change the state law in Mississippi as to what that flag should be. Remember, this reminds us also of our concepts of jurisdiction, that we in Massachusetts can't really change a law that affects what the flag is in Mississippi. It has to come from the Mississippi legislature, who has jurisdiction or the power to make this change. So we have to imagine the Mississippi legislature, and that of course includes senators and representatives, just like the state legislature in Massachusetts does, and just like the U.S. legislature does in Washington, D.C. So the legislators introduced a bill, which is an idea for legislation, to remove the Confederate flag image from the state flag and then create a new flag. So that is going to be, and that was a new bill introduced just this past summer to change the Mississippi state flag away from that image with the Confederate flag and come up with something new. Now, again, if you look up the history of Mississippi, this has been tried before and it's never changed, it's never passed, but something different happened this summer. The Mississippi legislators voted on the bill. And if you're at all interested in this, it's really fascinating. This actually happened in record speed. In fact, some of the work even happened over the course of a weekend. So sometimes we hear about the legislative branch moving kind of slowly to pass new laws. This one was the exact opposite. It happened in warp speed. So the Mississippi House of Representatives voted in favor of the new bill. So again, this is the legislative process. A legislator introduces a bill. It's an idea for a bill, but a majority of both the Senate and the House of Representatives for the state must vote in favor of that bill. And you can see that I put the breakdown here. A majority of the representatives and a majority of the senators both voted in favor of this bill. And again, the bill being a bill to amend, which means change the Mississippi state flag from a flag that has the image of a Confederate flag to a flag that has something different. The final bill said this. The final bill said the Mississippi flag shall remove the Confederate image. But now what about a new flag? This bill itself didn't say what the new flag should be. It just said this, that the Mississippi legislature will create a commission, like a group of people, to then get together and decide what this new flag is going to look like. And then the third part of the bill said that this new flag will go to the voters. And the voters will decide very soon on November 3rd, just coming up in just a couple of months, if the voters like the new proposed flag. So the idea for a law said, legislatures, do you support a new law in the state of Mississippi that will do these three things? Remove the flag image of a Confederacy, create a commission that will then create a new flag, and then third, if the commission can create this new flag in time, it will go to the voters to be approved on November 3rd. So this was now approved by both, as I mentioned, the legislative branch in Mississippi, and that includes the House of Representatives and the Senate for the state. But there's another step for legislation to be approved. And this goes back to our discussion on the branches of government, and that after the legislatures vote on the bill, it has to go to the governor to sign it, because that gives effect to the new law. And this would take place the same under federal rules as well, because you would have the US Congress passing a law and it would go to the president to sign or veto it. So what happened with the Mississippi flag? Well, the final bill went to the governor, Governor Tate Reeves, and here's an image. He signed the bill into law on June 3rd. As I mentioned, this just happened this past summer, so all very quickly. So what happened this summer is we had an amendment to a Mississippi state law. And that is how a bill becomes a law. Now, the latest news, literally just as I was getting ready to record these videos and this class, I saw that the Mississippi Commission has now created its new proposed flag. And they have decided, you can see the image right here, to use the image of the magnolia flower, which of course is representative of something that grows in that part of the country. So this is the proposed flag that the commission has. The commission was created, and the commission was charged with creating a new flag that now, as you can see written on this tweet, is going to the voters on November 3rd. So stay tuned. We will know in the course of our semester whether this flag meets approval by a majority of Mississippi voters. So we can come back and talk about this later this semester. I will definitely pay attention to it. But I wanted to do two things with this. Number one, I very much want to talk about our state flag in Massachusetts, and I want to talk about this legislative process in general. So after you've now seen this video, I'm going to go on to the last slide. This last slide, actually, here's an image of our Massachusetts state flag. So if you pause this video right after this, I want you to think about what images first come to mind when you see this flag. Do you feel that this flag is representative of our Commonwealth? What do you like? What do you not like? And then I want you to watch this video here about the Massachusetts state flag. And I want to use this as a launching pad for our week 2 discussion board. So take a look at the directions I wrote under the discussion board itself. And I want to know, what are your initial reactions to seeing this image on our state flag? After seeing the video, what do you think? Should we update, change our flag, or keep it the same? And number 3, I want you just remember to be respectful of our classmates. This is not an opportunity to put down somebody else's feelings, or how they feel inside. We're all unique individuals and we bring something to our class. But I'm curious about your feelings and the legislative process for creating a state flag. So I look forward to those comments on our discussion board. And I look forward to finding out if Mississippi voters will approve this flag on November 3rd.